Are the Phoenix Suns going to be able to keep DeAndre Ayton, or are they going to trade him for more roster, more pieces to actually fill out their particular roster? Are the 76ers going to keep James Harden? What the heck do they really value Tobias Harris at? Is Dame finally going to leave Portland, or is this just one of his other? Is this a diva moment for him at this particular point? And are the Golden State Warriors going to absolutely be able to keep Draymond Green, or is this officially the end of this particular dynasty? Let's talk about it. Listen, there are a couple teams to actually watch out for as we go into this particular video. And as I just mentioned, there are some who've had these ridiculous storylines. Let's start with the Philadelphia 76ers. For some odd reason, James Harden is, as I just learned, he doesn't necessarily have an agent, but he negotiates directly with Daryl Morey. And that relationship that he's had with him has been a long-standing one. And we all know, hey, if Daryl Morey leaves today and goes to, I don't know, just name it, Raptors, for example, James Harden is probably going to find a way to get there to him. Daryl Morey has done everything for James. They have a really great relationship. He's going to ride with his guy. But James Harden is also coming at a pretty penny for him being kind of a shell of himself, despite the fact that I think he has the assist title, or very close to it. And he's just not the same James Harden, but it doesn't mean he's bad. But most fans want him to be the same James Harden they saw in the Houston Rockets, which is not going to happen. So ultimately, is he worth $35 million? Does he opt in? Does he opt out? What happens? Who do they put around Joel Embiid if he leaves? All of those are questions to be asked. And apparently James Harden still has an affinity for the Houston Rockets. If you ask me, James Harden stays exactly where he is. His best chance to win is with the Philadelphia 76ers with the roster they have currently constructed, and they just needed to step up. Joel Embiid needed to step up. Joel Embiid shouldn't have ever gotten any press conference and said, it can't just be me and James. Excuse me? No, it's you all have the pieces there. Like there's two teams in the East who really didn't need to make big moves. You all just needed to step up, and it's the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston freaking Celtics. Like those are teams that didn't need to do anything but run it back, maybe with a different coach, and just actually compete. I saw what I thought James Harden give up in Game 7, and I saw Joel Embiid pretty much not be the same aggressive Joel Embiid as I once previously saw after he got that MVP. I just didn't see it. Now, I could be overly critical, but that's just what I saw when I watched it. There's no way in the world that should have happened that way. They had it. And I know that Jason Tatum having a freakishly amazing Game 7, you can't really do anything about it because he did open that game wide open after he started going off. But hey, you all, the Philadelphia 76ers have put together a good roster multiple times. In fact, from Jimmy Butler down to now, they've had really good pieces to get them where they need to go. It is ultimately up to the players to execute at certain points and stay mentally locked in. And that's just my total opinion. And so whether or not they trade Tobias Harris, who apparently, I don't know if these reports were real, but it seems like they were fraudulent to some degree. But they tried to get a king's ransom for Tobias Harris as if that was going to work. You all don't even use him appropriately. And I know I have a Bulls hat on, whatever, but I watch the NBA very, very much. It's all I watch, actually. I don't really do too much of anything else. And yeah, you all don't use Tobias Harris well. So it makes no sense for you to sit there and try to get a king's ransom for him. He doesn't have the market for it. There's just literally no market for Tobias Harris. But you all have it there. So I don't know what the thought process is, but I will say this. The one team that doesn't need to make any drastic moves, but rather not drastic moves as far as the roster is concerned, but they do need to find out if James Harden is going to actually restructure, which it seems like he is going to be able to take or be willing to take a team-friendly deal, even if it's not exactly the number you want, is the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm kind of really tired of talking about them because I really feel like it's more of a culture thing with them than anything else. The Sixers are in a good position to compete. They're in a good position to win. They have to get it done. And ultimately, if they move on from James Harden, they're not going to be able to get that done. James Harden, if he plays the role that he played last season, and if they utilize the pieces around him the same way, would be able to still average 22 and 10 or 20 and 10, whatever his numbers were. He was really, really good. He was a double-double king at that point. They should be able to get it done. And I think Nick Nurse is the right coach to get that done with them, especially if you, again, focus on the main thing, getting Joel Embiid the ball and then having good shooters and people around him and utilizing your team correctly. Because I'm sorry, Tobias Harris gets killed a lot, but the dude could ball. And he could really do a lot more if they allowed him to. But that's my take on that one. And that's ultimately what those trade rumors have been. It's really a lot of nothing, if you ask me, because I don't expect James Harden to go to the Houston Rockets. If he goes to the Houston Rockets, it wasn't to win. It's to get paid and be with strippers. I don't care what anyone says. It just is what it is. That's what he's known for. They have a permanent section down there for him at multiple clubs. Let's be real. And that's just the NBA we're in. Some players care about the lifestyle more than they care about actually winning. And at this point, he's already going to be a Hall of Famer. So if that's his attitude, that's his attitude. I hate to see it, but it is what it is. We're going to move on, though, because the Golden State Warriors find themselves in a really interesting predicament. And mainly because now they have Chris Paul. Chris Paul and Draymond Green have never liked each other, apparently. But they're on the same roster now. The Warriors cannot pay Draymond Green the same amount of money that the Sacramento Kings or any other team can pay him at this particular point. That's a fact. It's already been confirmed. Sacramento Kings can offer him way more money. And the scary thing is they run the same system. They have very similar players in the sense of how they try to run it and the roles that he will play. It's a system he knows he would fit in. He knows the coaching staff. He also knows part of ownership. It's a very scary thought. And ultimately, even though he did opt out to be, which was procedural, he was going to do it anyway. Even if he automatically was going to take a deal with the Golden State Warriors, he was going to opt out anyway. That's not big news. The scary part is most people didn't see Sacramento getting into that mix, and now they are. And those rumors are heating up heavy. And it's gone from Draymond is, of course, he's going to re-sign with Golden State Warriors to he may not. I think Draymond actually does go to Sacramento. I think, for one, Draymond ultimately, if some of the rumors were true about what Jordan Poole and everyone said to him, he should go get the bag because Golden State didn't give it to him. In fact, Golden State paid Jordan Poole all that money for someone they shipped off, which I think is a backhanded statement to Draymond. I get that Jordan Poole was on the come up, stuff like that, but there's no way that Jordan Poole got paid more than Draymond. No way. If he's that pivotal to your team, he's that pivotal to your organization, you don't sit there and do that. And you don't have that type of, no one else outside of that big Steph or Clay should even have the ability on the in the Golden State jersey to say, I make more money than you. Well, of course KD did, but still, like, that's not even, it's KD, like, but nobody else. And that seemed to have been one of the issues, if that rumor is true. But ultimately, you got to think about what it does for his particular legacy. Draymond can absolutely separate himself from the Golden State Warriors and prove that not only was he a fixture and the anchor for that Golden State Warriors run, but can also put together a good run with the Sacramento Kings. And they don't have to win a championship for him to prove that. Like, he can literally retire if the Kings make a deep playoff run and say, not only was I pivotal in you all getting rings, I helped them almost bust y'all tail too. And no one will be able to say anything about it. And he'll get paid in the process. I think Draymond Green is going to end up being a Sacramento King. I hate to see it. I hate to see what it would ultimately come to, but that's what I think when it comes to that. Ultimately, moving on to the next one. Man, for some odd reason, Dame and Portland I get tired of talking about it. At this point, I don't want to talk about Dame and Portland. Like, Dame, if you want to go to Miami, just go to Miami. Nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares if you sit there and say, all right, listen, I'm out. It's been 10 years, dog. And we're going like the third summer of us going back and forth for wondering what Portland's doing. Portland's already told you what they're going to do. And I don't know where they're going to get all the rest of this money, but they're not going to sit there and make drastic moves to help you compete. And you're not going to compete with the team you have. You're just not. I take that back. They are going to compete for a play-in spot. But that's about it. We're talking about a team that at one point had the chance to actually make a finals. And, yeah, that didn't happen. And then the small window they had, they still ran into a buzzsaw and a retool Golden State. I mean, they've had a very up and down thing. But the way that the Portland Trailblazers go, it's not going to work out for them. It's not going to work out for him. No one thinks he's going to win in Portland. And I know everyone keeps saying, well, I want to be, but no, Dame has actually said, I would like to play in these particular places. He just doesn't want to be the bad guy. And I believe that narrative. I really do. I believe that he would love to play in a different place, but he doesn't want to be the person to break up the marriage. And I can kind of respect it on one end, but I also don't want to hear you talk about how you want to compete. If you really want to compete and you want to win, then go to a situation that allows you to win. Because guess what? This is not the 1980s, 1990s. You have to use your mobility to the best of your advantage to get to your ultimate goal for yourself personally. And that's in any stretch of life, professionally, secularly. I mean, people, like, if you are not sitting there looking at changing a job every 3 or 4 years, you literally cut your earning potential in half. Loyalty, you do not get awarded for loyalty the same way you did in any space at this particular point. So guess what, Dame? It's time to rotate, baby. Portland has drafted. They said that you said you wanted more vets. They still use that number 3 pick and drafted somebody, despite the fact that they got Simons on a roster, and they already got some other pieces that they can help develop, young pieces they can help develop. They still use that number 3 pick instead of getting you some veteran help. To me, that's the ultimate disrespect. I ultimately see Dame in a Miami jersey. I think that trade rumor is real. I think that those rumors are going to come true, and I think that at this point he needs to go ahead and say that's what he wants to be. Miami could use him. They have the pieces to do it, or they will make a way. But at this point, just get done with it. It's just Now moving on to the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns are an interesting team because at this point, everyone is just looking at the fact that there's only 4 players pretty much on that particular roster. And they would sign a bunch of people on a vet minimum. And that process has helped people contend, but not always win a championship. However, the Phoenix Suns are a little different. KD, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker are the best 3-man tandem in the league. And it ain't even close. There is nothing you can do with that 3-man tandem. However, the Deandre Ayton part comes in where people forget that this is a first round pick. I think it was the number 1 pick, if I'm not mistaken, or at least top 5. I believe it's number 1. He wants the ball, and he should want the ball. He was drafted in a position where he was pretty much touted and told, we're going to give you the ball. That's normally what happens when you get picked that high. You're going to get, walking in, a starter's opportunity to show up and show out. And Deandre Ayton is not bad compared to what people say he is. I think he just doesn't have the opportunity. In some cases, it just doesn't work. Some cases you need to be on a team in which, hey, you get the right amount of touches to do what you need to do. And some people need that, especially people who are considered star players or have star potential. A lot of them need the rock. There's nothing wrong with that. Deandre Ayton is not in that situation anymore. He for darn sure ain't in the situation now, because if you think you're going to get that peel between KD, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, you's a fool. You ain't finna get that. So you get 8 shots a game, be happy. You down there to rebound and put back. At this point, Phoenix Suns needs more role players or serviceable role players than they actually need another potential star. They're already very top heavy. They need to balance out. I expect Deandre Ayton to get moved. Now, here's the thing. Where he gets moved to has been kind of up and down. But there's one team I think could you really use him in a sense, and they have some young players who could help fill out some other things. I looked at Deandre Ayton's and this is one of those pie in the sky things, but you look to Utah to still make some moves. I know that this isn't the sexiest thing, but if you really look at it, Utah has young players on their particular roster. Some they're going to bring back. Jordan Clarkson's one that everyone comes to mind. But I look at Colin Sexton. And Colin Sexton at one point was the starting guard on the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he was a stud. I mean, at one point he was 24 points a game, 47% from the field. And even though the last 2 seasons he has dealt with injuries and availability, he's still only 24. He's already had started near all-star potential. I think he's already been considered. I don't want to make anything up, but I think, you would look at him. At one point he was a premier guard at one point. I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that he gets back to that. I think he's just looking for the right opportunity, and he's in a situation where he's already been kind of brought down to earth to some degree, but he can absolutely help on so many different levels. I'm not saying that that he's going to end up with Phoenix, but what I'm saying is, if you look at what Phoenix actually needs, they have no bench. They have some. They're going to start needing to fill that second unit out, and he's kind of been in that space for the last 2 years. I can expect to see him to get moved, and I wouldn't mind that for Phoenix at all. Now, the money that attached to him, he makes 17 a year. I think he's going to make 18. That may be a thing. But that's just one team that comes to mind. They have young pieces there that they may move, because at a certain point you can have too many young pieces. And that's also the same situation I think the Houston Rockets find themselves in. I don't know how they're going to, in OKC, I don't know how they're going to train all of these young guys to maximize their potential, because they have too many. I mean, if you look at OKC, no one even remembers that Chet Holmgren was supposed to be what Wembanyama is now. And if you ask me, from what I've seen, I think Chet still has the better game overall. Now, I know it's a whole different position, stuff like that, but it's like, I've never really been big on the Wembanyama thing, just because I see what he can do, but I ain't seen 7'5" do what he does. And I don't see it really working at his size. I just don't see it. I'm not sitting there trying to hope that for the worst, but to say, call them the best prospects since LeBron and all that stuff, I don't see it. All in all, I can expect Phoenix to actually use DeAndre Ayton to trade to a younger team, or to a team that absolutely needs to have younger players who are looking for a come up. I would have said the Wizards if it wasn't for them already getting Bradley Beal. It seems like, I don't know what Atlanta is doing, but I can see him down in Atlanta. I can see him. Jesus. Heck, I can see him making a trade with Portland, who, by the way, in the same video has made Norman Powell available for trade. So I can see them actually. Norman Powell's actually in LA. Forgive me. The long and short of it is, you can see several teams that need DeAndre Ayton and wouldn't be bad making a move. In fact, I'm wearing a Bulls hat. Ayton on the Bulls in a Bulls jersey wouldn't be bad. He wouldn't be the same. He would be younger. He would fit our particular time frame, and they could get some pieces back that we have that help them fill out their roster, as far as P. Will, maybe even Kobe White, and that actually helps fill them out. That's just my thoughts on it. Interesting situation for Phoenix. I think that they're going to go to the veteran men route for most of the players. Where the heck is John Wall at, since you want to add Bradley Beal in it? Heck, they played together. They might as well go grab him. Where is he at? Things of that nature. Let's move the heck on from that one. Last but not least, and this is ultimately a two-part thing, we have to talk about the Miami Heat. Miami Heat still making a push for Dame. In fact, it's been reported that Miami Heat and Pat Riley are very patient, and they will be patient, because they don't believe that Portland can get the pieces that entice them to stay. They've put together several trade packages that include Tyler Hero. But I have not seen a trade package rumored to include Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, but they definitely have one that includes Tyler Hero. And I think it'd be a mistake for them to include both of their shooters. I wouldn't think that would be the best thing to do. But they are very much so going in on the fact that Dame is going to request out. And so from the Portland's aspect, you would say, hey, you're not going to get the pieces around you. But is this a good move for the Miami Heat? Interesting position to take, because at this point you're waiting on one guy to decide whether or not he wants to be with you or not, and the rest of your opportunities could already be signed by the time he actually makes up his mind. It's almost as if you're the last person at the ball, trying to wait for this one person to dance, and then all of a sudden the dance is over before you get your turn. It's not the best situation. So if I'm saying this, if Pat Riley is sitting there patiently waiting, he knows something that we all don't. And we can be sure that, I think, based off of that, we're going to see Dame in a Heat jersey. I just have that feeling right there. Another team that we have to consider and mention, I know it's not on the thumbnail, there's a couple different things. There's not, mind you, none of these things have been confirmed yet, because that would be kind of, for some of them, as far as signing, you can't necessarily do it, but you can come to agreement in part, and the rumors can be loud enough, right? But Chris Middleton opting out may actually have some other implications than him just trying to restructure his deal. He could be on a move. He could be one to go. Is that something for the Bucks to be looking at? Could the Lakers be really looking at Brook Lopez? You see those little rumblings all over Twitter. Those things are gaining traction as well. Now, do I think that those things are true? Possibly not. I see Chris Middleton going nowhere but back in the Bucks jersey, and I see Brook Lopez doing the same thing. For them to sit there and break that up and not find a way to keep them together would be blasphemous for the for Milwaukee Bucks, who still have one of the best teams in the league. If it wasn't for injury, they would have beat the Miami Heat. And as far as matchups are concerned, no one was matching up with the healthy Milwaukee Buck team. Like, the only people who could have matched up with them and been somewhat of effective were Denver. A healthy Giannis and everybody else, and how they would have. Yeah. Now, I know that sounds pretty tongue in cheek because the Miami Heat did put the pause on them, but I still look at the fact that Giannis only played 2 games really. It says 3, but he only played 11 minutes in one because he got hurt, and he was wincing so much. And from the case of it, he was in so much pain that he could even feel it standing still, which is why he was struggling so much, apparently, at the free throw line. It's one of the reports I saw. I don't know how much truth it is to that one. I don't know if I believe that one, but he was in considerable pain. And if he was a better free throw shooter, they would have won a lot, at least that last game that they played. So it goes to show you that, hey, they were close and they were robbed by injury. They need to keep that together. I don't see them any of those people going anywhere. But I want to hear your thoughts, man. What are you hearing on the streets? What are you hearing on these NBA streets? Because at the end of the day, some of these teams we know are going to stand pat. We all know good and well that whether or not James Harden opts in, restructures, whatever, he's more than likely going to go back into a Phillies jersey. We know that Draymond Green more than likely will stay in a Golden State jersey. And we know for a good portion of the season that the Phoenix Suns may have to keep Deandre Ayton up until All-Star break until they can find good teams to actually rally around and get a good deal for him. They're trying to create a market for Deandre Ayton that may not exist, but they don't want to give him away for anything, which is a smart thing to do. And they have an absolute need because they have no one on that roster. So that's just the long and short of that one. But I want to hear what you have to say. This is going to be for me, this is somewhat of a mid update because everything is on the cups of being speculation, but it is widely reported. Like anything that you've heard in this video, you can find reports for. You will find reports for some reputable, and then you hear the rumblings for. Obviously, you have the pie in the sky people as well. But I try to make sure we keep it tight, we keep it clean, and we always give you all something to actually digest and think about. But I want to hear your trade rumors and your trade requests. It's a lot of different teams who need to make moves. Chicago Bulls are one of them. The New York Knicks are still trying to make some moves, and apparently Brian Windhorst believes that the Cleveland Cavaliers have enough, and they really do have the pieces to make some noise and get someone else in there that will shake up and blow up the entire league. And I can't wait to hear what that was, but I want to hear what your thoughts are. Let me know what your speculation is, whether it's love, whether it's hate. I'll be in the chat in there with you. Till next time.